Welcome to the CPD programme for dental professionals. Before we start today's CPD session, please ensure that you have downloaded all your course materials from your online folder. This will include your course notes, your CPD questions, your professional development plan form, and your PowerPoint and evaluation. At the end of the session, you will need to complete the questions and the evaluation. These completed forms should be then uploaded to your online folder, and then you will receive your certificate of CPD. Poilcy Audit. This covers GDC Standard 6.
Okay, so audits are a requirement in terms of maintaining policies. When the CQC first registered all the practices and came out to see whether they've got policies or not, what they found, and they complained very, very much about, was lots of practices had just simply been somewhere and bought a book of policies.
Not as Glenys.
You didn't know, I know. And put those policies on the shelf somewhere, sometimes not even bothering to take the BDA or the code logo off them, never read them, had no idea of what they said, and they had absolutely no effect whatsoever in the way that the practice was running. Waste of time. The practices complained because the policies were useless. Well, actually, the policies were useless because they weren't useless. So, as time has gone on now, every practice has been checked to see that you're registered, you've got the mechanisms to meet the standards. Okay. Now, whatever the policies were when you were first checked won't make them the same policies the next time you checked. And the way those policies are going to move from their original format to where they need to be in 3 years' time is through a process of looking at what the policy says it's going to do, asking whether or not it's being done, and then finding ways to move closer to audit. The other thing that happens, of course, is that new regulations come out, and there are new requirements made upon you, and the policy needs to be changed in order to reflect that. So, in order to keep the policies and procedures that are set out for the practice dynamic and valuable, what you have to do is regularly look at them and review them and ask, do these do what we set out to do? Which means that the first thing that a policy needs is a policy statement. The point of this policy is to ensure that we, and that will go on and say whatever it is that the policy sets out to do. So, in order to make that happen in a practice as big as this, it can't be one person's responsibility. Now, every practice...
It's such a good job, why can't it be?
It's not possible. It's not possible.
She's just the godmother.
A lot of practices will already have a series of leads. They'll have a lead for decontamination, it's a requirement. They'll have a lead for child safeguarding, another requirement. Probably have a lead for information governance, a requirement. It makes a lot of sense really to roll out that, because the whole point of having a decontamination lead is that somebody who is literally hands-on in doing what it is that that policy covers is involved in looking at the policy and making sure that whatever needs to be done is done, and that when it is being done, it's being done to a standard that is in the patient's best interest. And that's your responsibility there, isn't it?
So, do we have a lead for everything?
The lead, we need the policies. The intention, therefore, is to ensure that you've got a continuous improvement process. Okay, so let's start from the ground with this one, and let's start with a policy, which I'm sure I've got a big pile of them here. Yes, here they are. And I'll just hand those round. There is one that's got And you start to give some consideration to anything you might do to improve it, or things that are outdated. You mentioned the fact that before people had mobile phones, there was a different issue with leaving messages than there are now. So things change, and we need to make sure policies are in line with those changes. That's not playing the game there. So, in order to audit, what we need is the policy that we're auditing. We need people to have allocated roles, the person that's responsible. So for each area, you've got a lead. Have you got a lead for confidentiality? Is that
Caroline.
It's who?
Caroline.
Caroline, okay, so Caroline's got that responsibility there. She would be the person that would gather the information to look at the policy and see if it's doing what it should do. There needs to be training in place, which is really sitting around talking about any changes so that people can make what you've decided the way that things are done. And then performance review, which is the whole gathering of information. Perhaps on a particular day somebody would go around the practice and look and see if any cards were where they shouldn't be for that first part there, and if they are, ask the questions: how did it get to be there, why is it there, how can we prevent it from being a breach of confidentiality. In hospitals they have a lot of problems with that, and I've seen records really treated shabbily there, and anybody could have sat and read them, and it was just not acceptable.
I think we have had problems with them before as well. What's the records missing, people keeping them in surgeries, people taking them home, really completely changed.
Yeah, I think the record keeping is so important in terms of having those records to hand when you need them, that having those strong agreed ways of working are so important. So analysis, therefore, when you've got the information, recognises achievement, because when you do audit, you're not just looking for what you're doing wrong, you're looking to see where you're doing well, and if you were to be scoring yourselves out of that, you'd be scoring pretty high, wouldn't you? However, having said that, you've also recognised that there are bits that maybe could be done differently. You then address the shortfalls, and as a result, you get continuous improvement. And the whole point of all of it, really, is the way that the patients are treated, the ultimate quality of care for treatment. So continuous development of policies is the audit process. It makes them dynamic, it makes them a living, breathing thing that reflects the needs of the people in the practice and reflects the needs of the patients. Because if they're not user-friendly, if they're not policies that you can do, then they're not going to be policies that work.